This is the Stubborn German podcast coming to you from the beautiful Stubborn German Brewing Company here in equally as delightful Waterloo, Illinois. I'm Kevin Oste, joined by the proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company, Mr. Chris Ron.
Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Everything is up.
Everything.
And our esteemed producer, Mr. Jared Chasson.
Hello. How are you?
Dynamite.
Good.
Hey, Jared.
Hey. What's up?
Can you tell we prepared for this one?
Oh, we are so ready.
All right. Well, first and foremost,
Yeah.
the German word of the day
Bring it
is
on.
burning a hole in Jared's curiosity. So
Okay. German word of the day is...
this is a little contest, friends. Where he throws something out, we get it wrong,
right.
and at the end, everybody's upset. So here we are.
Vierad.
I'm sorry, Vierad?
Vierad.
Can you spell it?
Vierrrad. Vierad.
Vierad. Okay.
Vierad. What do you think that means there, Jared?
Vierad. I'm going to say it is the German pronunciation of the Harley-Davidson V-Rod
Wow.
motorcycle.
Ooh, interesting.
The V-Rod.
The V-Rod.
Impressive.
Okay.
Very nice.
Interesting. Okay.
Vierad.
Noted. Vierad.
Wow. This one is, it's escaping me more than most. So I'm going to say it's the...
You should know this, Oste.
Oh, don't do that.
Uh-oh. Now the pressure's on. You should know this.
You should know this.
The Vierad.
Vierad.
Can you use it in a sentence?
The German word of the day is
Vierad. Yes, thank you.
no problem.
Well done. Vierad. I don't know. I'm going to say it's...
Has a tie to the V8 radio podcast.
Okay.
There's your clue.
There's so many ties, though. That's the thing.
Probably not enough to
Yeah.
jog your memory just off of
It's German for cue ball.
that.
Cue ball.
For cue ball.
That's my guess.
Well, okay, but I will use that on the next episode, whatever that is. Okay,
right.
I have tabulated
All
your
right.
entries. We'll find the result out at the end and find out how correct you all are.
Nice.
Yeah. Can't
So
wait.
we teased in the last episode
We did do a little teaser,
that we
didn't
would get to...
We need to do that.
We discussed that Kevin, as you all know, is on another podcast, the V8
Yes.
radio podcast. And his recent episode about a very cool acquisition.
New member of the Oste family.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell us about it, Kevin.
Van Oste.
Yes. Well,
Van
that's
Oste.
great. I'm glad you guys are on the side that thinks this is cool.
It is cool.
Because there are people that do not.
Well, neighbors and
Well, yeah.
family
I don't
members.
know if I would want to necessarily live right next to it, but
Well, the short version is the new acquisition is actually a 1979 Dodge Maxi van that is a full custom vehicle from 79. And if you...
so hold on.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah.
talking about like a minivan that everybody
No.
drives their kids to soccer. This is a full size,
A maxi van.
big old van, right?
Yeah, and so there was a whole culture thing that happened in the 70s. In the 60s, a lot of car enthusiasts would buy, high performance muscle cars and whatnot. And then there was a thing called the gas crunch, and muscle cars went out of style because the insurance premiums went way high. People were crashing them all the time in street racing, and then they were expensive to operate with gas. So, but people still had this need to be creative with their vehicles, and they were passionate about them. So vans became the thing. And not that they were any more fuel efficient, but people used them differently, and they were
Yeah.
customizing them, and they were painting them crazy colors, and putting couches and beds and tappers and stuff in them. and you could drive the thing to work, and
Yeah.
use it as a regular vehicle. And on the weekends, you could go out, to an event or a park, or you could camp in it, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And most of these were like home-built things. The owner did the work.
Sure.
Until like the late 70s, when the industry realized that there was a market for these things. So a handful of operations started to sell, the early term was a conversion van.
Right.
That you could go to a dealership and you could buy a customized van.
Yeah.
So that basically is the dealer would get the van in, send it out to this other shop, a third party kind of thing. They would do all the work, customize it, and then they'd bring it back to the dealership, and then you buy it from there.
And
right?
it was done. You bought it new,
Yeah.
and it was already
Yes.
finished and modified and whatnot. And in the 80s, those really caught on in the 80s, and we've all seen them with stripes and a couch and whatnot. And those were kind
Curtains.
of
Yeah, right.
mini blinds. And those were fairly sterile compared to their hand-built counterparts of the mid-'70s that were like murals of dragons and Star Wars murals and smoke coming out of everywhere for various reasons. And,
Nice.
So
Carpet, shag carpet.
Oh, yeah,
things
right.
like
Lots of shag carpet.
lots of red lighting and, that kind of stuff.
Because I do think people my age and Chris's age probably mostly identify conversion vans as like from the factory.
Yeah.
Really kind of nice. I mean, that was the thing
Yeah,
they're going
that's
for was
the-
like luxury, right?
Exactly,
You're getting a VCR and you're getting, all this, a sleeper bed and, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were always like a shade of green and white striped or a blue,
Right.
But
navy.
nobody was
Lovely.
like painting on the side murals and stuff.
No.
Like that
Not-
was
not
the,
that I
the
remember.
era right before that.
Correct.
And that's what we're talking about here.
Well,
right?
yeah. So in the early '80s, my dad wanted one of these things, but there was several factors at play. One, he didn't want to buy a brand new conversion van because they were expensive.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he didn't want to pick up something that some pothead made because he was a police officer, and
okay.
you don't want.
It's still got to be PG.
For sure, at least PC anyway.
Right,
Here's Officer Ossie driving around in his stoner van. So he got lucky in 1984 and split the difference and found a van it was a conversion van done by a factory, but it wasn't a very sterile one, and it had murals on the side of some mountainscape and custom paint treatment on the sides and the plush carpet, shag carpet and a bed in the back.
Nice.
But it was, just, sterile enough to not look like an undesirable behind the wheel.
So a police officer could drive it okay. And
Yes, right. And
Not
one
be
of
looked at funny.
the interesting things about it is it was based on the Dodge Maxi van chassis. So you could buy a regular van and then Dodge, well, Ford and Chevy did them too, but Dodge was most famous for it, added an extra 3 feet on the back of this thing. So,
really?
Yeah. So it's long.
3 feet to add
3
to
feet
an
is
already full-size van.
Yes,
is
and there's a seam.
Yeah.
You can see it right in the back where they just
They literally just
put a
add
different
to
cap
it?
on the back to it. Yeah,
Wow.
there you go. And
Here's your 3 extra feet.
you didn't see very many converted maxi vans, so that was unique in itself. And when I was
Gotcha.
a kid, he came home with this thing, and it was used. It was a '79, and this was an '84, so he didn't pay new price for it. So he did well on all of his goals, and I couldn't believe it. I don't even know how old I was, 12, 13, and this thing shows up in front of my house, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have this custom thing,
Yeah.
You liked it?
I loved it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and I didn't
Even
realize
at that young, you were... Yeah.
I thought it was cool because it was, colors and shiny,
Sure.
and you opened it up and it, it had this
was fun.
interior. But what it turned out to be for me and my buddies was like our apartment, right? So
It was your way to get out of the house but still be at home.
Exactly.
And,
And
you
so
hung out in there.
we would go out in the street and hang out in the van, and we're not anywhere near old enough to drive, but we would listen to music and hang out and do whatever we did. In fact, thinking back, it's kind of funny because my buddy Paul and I would sleep out there on the street, and camp, in front of the house.
In the street?
What parents let a 12-year-old kid
Right.
camp out in a van?
Parked in the street.
Yeah, it was a pretty busy street. we
Who
lived
needs a
on, dude.
treehouse when you have a
That's funny.
conversion van?
That's
true.
it. Yeah, it was a rolling rumpus room.
That's,
So-
yeah.
So-
Unassuming, yeah.
so it kind of left a mark, and I thought it was cool. And I didn't really like all the rest of the vans. I was never like in the whole culture, but that one was neat. It was a connection.
You liked the one you had. And,
Liked the one I
yeah.
had.
Yep.
And my dad, we traded it for a car for my sister in 1990. And I thought if I ever find another one of those things, I might entertain it.
Yeah.
And it was done by an organization called Concept Engineering in Goshen, Indiana. And it's a very specific look. And I'd only seen one other that they had done that was similar. And I didn't get it, But about a month ago, I get a thing in the email, and I opened the email, and it was like seeing Elvis. It was like, there it is, right?
Whoa.
And it wasn't the van that we had, because that's long gone, but it was done. It's a maxi van, same year, done by the same group, same graphics, same interior. same cabinets and the carpet and all the stuff, like almost to a T.
Like I heard you and
That's cool.
and Mike
That's awesome.
Q-Ball saying you suspect it was probably like the same painter
Painted
did
by
it, and the same guy
'Cause
that
it's
welded
got
the back
same
end on,
V
welded it.
kind of thing on it.
Well,
and-
not only the same style, but they were both built in the same month in November of '78. So I guarantee the same
And
guy.
some of the
did
same
work.
like wheels and everything, right? Like
So much of it is the
Yeah.
same. There's like 5 things that are different,
Yeah.
and that's
Wow.
it.
Wow.
So I ended up obtaining this thing,
Wow.
I ended up obtaining
and I was like, I got to get this, and my wife's like, what are we going to do with that?
Didn't you even like sleep on it and like really?
Oh yeah,
I mean, you thought about it.
I don't normally
was
just jump.
haunting you for a few days, right?
It did, and what what was really haunting me was a potential sense of regret.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because
Right?
when are you going to
Yeah.
see this again? Like,
Yes, I didn't want to let it get away. I've let other things get away, and I was pissed.
And it wasn't
Yeah.
just something that popped up that, oh, hey, there's a van we used to have. This was something you had been thinking about for years of trying to acquire. Like,
yeah, it was like
someday.
32 years. Of
Right.
having this
So
thing
you
rattle
don't,
around.
you don't just
Right.
let that walk. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like I was seeking it out every day, but
Sure.
it was there, So in order to satisfy that, I kind of had to get it.
yeah, for sure.
And I told my wife, I said, look, if we get this thing, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I might sit in it for 3 hours and sell it. I don't
Be
know.
like, okay, that was fun.
But I need to cap this story, right? I got to complete this chapter of
Right.
this search. So, end up buying the thing and having it shipped to the house, and it was just a mind bender. It was like, and it's kind of hard to explain because it's not like I was trying to, live in the past or anything
Right.
like that. But the house I grew up in was leveled 20 years ago, and another house built in this place, and
Yeah.
it's in a different city that I don't live in anymore. So I don't have a lot of physical ties to, growing up.
Sure. You can't just go drive by your old childhood house
That's
and
right.
be like, that's my place.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Which I never thought of. I mean, I can do that.
You can
still,
do that, yeah.
But
You can do it.
But yeah, I guess that is a thing. I mean,
Well, you're in the same town. You see the same people.
Yeah, sure,
and,
sure.
and you've grown up with these people, for years. Now
Yeah.
you know their kids and the whole thing.
right.
I don't see any of the people that I grew up with.
Right.
And I have some friends, and thankfully there's social media and we can stay in touch that way. But what it turns into is the first half of my life feels like, did that really happen? Not like it's a dream, but it's just so different.
Yeah.
And I don't have any other physical evidence that it actually occurred.
So now you just look out in the driveway and you're like, yep, it did.
If you go inside this thing, it's like, oh yeah, it
There
just
it is.
reconnected all this stuff,
That's
which
pretty
kind of helps frame where you are today.
Yeah.
I think back of when I was a kid. If I couldn't even conceive that I would be in the position I am today with our business and the things that I
On
like
the
to
Stubborn
do.
German podcast.
On the Stubborn German
Exactly.
podcast, coming here and but at the same time, knowing the town of Waterloo where we live is not a very big town, it's not a
Right.
big city,
Yep.
and I never thought that I would enjoy living in a smaller city like. And when I say small, I grew up in the Chicago area and then lived in L.A. So 2 of the 3 biggest cities in the country,
Right.
and then to
now
come
we got 10,000 people here. Yeah.
right, and it's awesome. It's great. So it's just a frame of reference,
Yeah.
perspective. So the interesting thing that is really funny about this is how excited all of my friends are
I bet.
that I got this van. Right?
As soon as I didn't know anything about this, we haven't connected in a bit, and I heard it on your podcast,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Wait a minute, what?"
yeah, right. Yeah.
And I immediately text you, and I'm like, "I can't wait to drink bourbon and play poker
cards on the
Yes.
van. Yeah.
Right.
And that's so I obviously I had to share the discovery, and I sent pictures to some of the guys that I grew up with,
the
that
original that
hung out in the van with
Yeah.
me, and they're like, "Oh my God, you got to get that like now!" They were just blown away, and so they're starting to send ideas, of what we're going to do. And I'm thinking, a bunch of 50-year-old guys running around in a free candy van, is going to be a little strange. But you know what? It's going to be a good time. So, Chris, you actually kind of started a thought with your text, 'cause that's exactly what you said. Let's go drink bourbon and smoke cigars. Shortly thereafter, some of my friends volunteered me and the whole van for a trip to Mexico.
Of course.
Details get fuzzy after that.
Oh God. Yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
And then we learned that if I re-register this thing with RV plates,
Yeah.
everybody can drink in it.
no way.
Going down the road,
Gosh.
except for the driver, of course.
That's a no-brainer right there.
So then we started to develop, like, maybe it's, Bourbon-Cigar-and-Steak-night, where we just get
Wow.
somebody to drive us.
Yeah.
And then, a handful of people get in. We can enjoy the lamp of luxury.
It doesn't even matter where you're going. You don't even have to go anywhere, really.
But imagine the next dimension is if you did.
Right?
The first one's in your driveway. The second one, we go
We
somewhere.
venture out. So
we drive to the liquor store and the butcher shop. And
Well, no, what I'm thinking is we have a couple of drinks. We go to a nice steakhouse somewhere.
oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then, when we come out after having a nice meal, there it is in the in the parking lot, and we get driven home, and it'd be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And then yesterday, at an event for my own business, some of the guys we were talking about. There's a car show in Chicago in November. And some of these guys have been to it in the past, and they're like, hey, are we going to go to that again this year? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool if you want to go. And they're like, are we going to take the van? We need to take the van. We've got to go. We're all getting in the van. We're going to Chicago.
Well, yeah,
you know?
we need to take that.
So
How many people does the van hold?
It's got seating for it's got seating for 7.
For 7?
So there's 4 captain's chairs, and they all swivel, and then there's a 3-person, couch thing in the back. So I would say 6 comfortably.
Gotcha.
You
And
know?
one of those is the driver, or not?
Yeah, one of the drivers. So
Gotcha.
5,
So
five
plus the driver.
passengers. Yeah.
I mean, realistically, it's as many as you can fit inside. But
There was
yes,
one night in
legally.
1989 when we had 17 people. in the
17 people
in
in
the
it.
old one. Yeah.
Very impressive.
It was.
Yeah.
I think it was Paul and I, my buddy Paul and I, and like
15 more people.
15 girls, I think.
Wow. Good for you.
Yeah, and that shows how horrible we were because with those odds, we still got nowhere.
How'd you mess that up?
Well, I told you guys when
There's 2 other guys.
I got a little choked up listening to the episode just over the connection that you made with your family and with your memories and the nostalgia. And
It was cool.
That's not every day that you can do that. Not everybody has the chance or the object or thing that would do that for them. And it was really cool to have you experience that.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And-
It got me thinking, too. Like, I don't even know what object or whatever I would even look for, because you said a Google thing to
Yes.
when
A search.
that was a search alert
Notification, yeah.
So it emailed you when something popped up.
with those words. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so I wouldn't even know what I would, what thing from my youth that I would like to buy, but it kind of made me start thinking, like, well, what is there, My dad had an old Suburban that was fun, kind of like the same thing. And
There you go.
And but I wouldn't. I mean, that was still recent enough where I don't know.
It was still annoying.
And I had to work on
Right,
it.
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
pain in the
yeah.
ass.
I feel like if I could get a 3rd generation Cobra Commander, that might be
there you go.
the thing that would.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
know.
the thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be a vehicle,
Right,
right.
It could be anything. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But in my case, there was just so many memories about that van.
Yeah.
So my dad, the suburb I grew up in was dry. There was no liquor sold, no liquor stores.
Really?
So we had to drive to the next town, to the next
suburb of
Yeah,
Chicago
yeah,
was
yeah.
dry?
It was completely dry. Yeah.
How weird is that? When
It
there
was
was
weird.
tax money, it's Illinois.
Why would they do that?
Luckily, by the time I was legal, they wetted up.
They wetted up? They wised up and wetted up.
Interestingly, by the way, if you've seen the television show Chicago Fire on NBC, I
Yeah,
guess,
okay.
they were in my hometown of Park Ridge.
Really?
2 nights ago, burning the Pickwick Theater, which is a national landmark, and they shot a whole episode there.
Wow.
Which was kind of neat. The van had been there, by the way.
No
But-
big deal.
Yeah, but my dad used to drink, as we've talked about, a lot of old style beer, and
Yeah.
he smoked a cigarette. So we would have to drive to the next suburb to get the beer, and we always took the van. And there was always beer in the cup holder and stuff. And just those stories. This was, and the more I dissect this stuff, those beer runs probably took an hour. It's like a 10 or 12 minute drive, and then you
Yeah.
go to the liquor store, and then you got to talk to the guy, and then you go get cigarettes and whatever, and you come back. that was him getting out of the house
Yeah.
for an hour, you know?
Right.
And
It wasn't a bad thing that he had to go there. And
right.
Yeah.
And so part of me says I annoyed the hell out of him by going with him. But he did ask, you know, hey, we're going, you know, whatever, and we go take a ride. And we used to go to this liquor store in the city of, it was in Chicago, but it was a neighborhood called Edison Park, and it was called Worldwide Liquors and Cheese Shop for some reason.
and cheese shop. How was the cheese?
I couldn't tell you.
Never bought that. Huh?
And it's still there.
Yeah.
Worldwide Liquors is still there on Northwest Highway. And one of the things that I remember being a kid is they had a counter where the cash register was, you know, and the counter was like a linoleum or something, but it was worn completely through because of people sliding beer across it, and that's still there.
Still there,
Yeah.
still being worn
Still
today.
being worn away, yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually.
So what ends up happening is if you connect with something, you know, from your youth or whatever, and you start to kind of think about the stories around it, it's not the thing.
Yeah.
You know,
It's all the other stuff that
Yep.
it makes you kind of think back and appreciate. And
right.
yeah, that's cool.
Well, if you want to check out more about this story, and it's a good story, listen to the V8 radio podcast with our very own Kevin Ostie. And you can hear all about this episode. So now I know we need to,
even more.
we need to wrap this one up.
Yep.
Chris has some cool. He's got some hunting to do,
We got some hunting to do.
so he's got to get into the woods.
little deer hunting.
But we got to get to the German word of the day. But
Okay.
maybe you noticed in the time we started this episode, it is hopping in here.
Yeah, it got busy. I think
Man.
Everybody wanted to hear about the van.
honestly, so
They
this is
saw
the
us podcasting.
This is the yeah. German word of the day. We have Vierrad.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's just the Harley V rod. That's what it is.
That's what
right?
Jared said, and Kevin said it is a.
I
What
don't
did say?
remember.
I don't remember what I even said.
Well, I remember hearing that it was not correct. But you should know this because this was the answer to one of your V8 radio podcast trivia questions.
Oh, great.
This is the quadricycle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. What? The quadricycle.
Yeah.
So what was the question?
The question was Henry Ford created a device that was kind of known as the first car, but what was it called? And
Yes.
It was called the quadricycle because Henry Ford was a bicycle builder.
Okay.
And then they put two together and motorized it, and it had four wheels, and it's a quadricycle.
So this was Cue Ball's question to you, right? And
Yeah.
you got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On my show, I get the stuff right.
So you got it right, but you didn't know what it is in German?
On my show.
On my show.
That's awesome.
So is this...
You do well on your own show, actually. Yeah,
Is
you
this
do.
Carl Benz's version or Gottlieb Daimler?
Yes,
The German version?
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
The
No, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, I have to figure out the German word. And then it's like, oh, that's weird enough that you won't get that.
That's awesome.
So it went on the list.
Great question.
Yeah,
Wow,
it's
very
fun.
good.
All right.
All right, well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. We
Has been.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun.
If you like this show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we'll bore you with more next time on the Stubborn German Podcast. We close them the same way every time. Prost.
Prost.
Mellow corn in my glass.
Oh,
you
wait,
got,
what do
you
I
got
have?
Bourbon of the Week.
Okay.
You got
All right.
Woodenville.
Woodenville.
Very nice.
I was like, what am I going to get? Am I going to be all bougie and find
Bougie.
some crazy drink? I'm like, you know what? There's a bottle of mellow corn. It's mine.
That's it, man.
I want to talk about mellow corn at some point.
Let's do it.
We can do
We
that.
can talk it right on this episode.
Okay.
This is...